Hey, welcome back to Well, That's Interesting, the It's Halloween and We're Living Up to It edition. Today is episode 255. Let's talk about the sharpest teeth to ever exist so far, and you need to see what came out of the sun recently. It's a lot. My friends, will you look at that? If you're listening to this glorious episode on the day of its release, then you know tomorrow is the most wonderful time of the year. Fuck off Santa and scooch aside Jesus. I'm talking about October 31st in the States. Now, on an average Thursday, I accept the honor and challenge to bring you the wild, weird, and wacky, but when it comes to this Thursday, well, I want to take it up a notch. Today is truly a thing of nightmares. If this were a horror film, it would contain two of the genre's many staples: the mouth of a seemingly otherworldly creature, and the hopelessness one feels while dangling out there in the expanse of our universe, exposed to its elements. Are you excited? I am. In the first half of the show, when I say the words unimaginably sharp teeth, what comes to mind? The image of a shark? A bear? Pennywise? What about conodonts? No? Never heard of them? Well, neither have I up until like 5 minutes ago, and honestly and officially, these animals put every single creature with teeth to shame. Before I introduce you to conodonts, I'm going to need you to throw everything you know about animals out the fucking window, and that's because these creatures lived in a time unrecognizable. 542 million to 200 million years ago. That massive chunk falls within the Cambrian period to the end of the Triassic period. Now, what the hell does that mean? Don't worry, I've got you. That means, over the expanse of 300 million years, this species saw the first animals with hard skeletons popping up in the Earth's oceans, to the rise of new reptile groups on land, including the first dinosaurs. Needless to say, when you find yourself surrounded by new kids on the block, each of which is focused on surviving any way possible in completely new ways, you better not bring a knife to this gunfight. You better bring the sharpest teeth to ever exist. And surprise, conodonts weren't massive four-legged beasts of these ancient times. Oh, no. In fact, they had no limbs at all. These were soft-bodied creatures like that of an eel. And if you spotted one in their habitat between ocean rocks, well, I would say it was purely out of luck, being that they only grew between 0.008 of an inch to 0.2 of an inch in length. As a helpful visual, imagine a grain of rice. That's their maximum size. But don't you fucking underestimate them. They're considered one of the most successful vertebrates in the hunting and killing department ever. That is because their face was basically a swimming garbage disposal. A collection of layered microscopic spikes arranged in such a way that they puzzled together to grab, pull in, and scissor away at flesh. Now, you may be wondering why their chewing process sounds so involved. Well, you know that debate of which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, that is dog shit compared to the question which evolved first, the jaw or teeth. And guess what? Teeth came first, or mineralized elements like them, which means conodonts didn't have jaws, so their mouth contained a machine of horrors to create motion. That sounds fucked up, doesn't it? Well, good news, it gets worse. We will learn more about conodonts, including what remains of them after hundreds of millions of years, and crucially, what does not. We will meet the team of paleobiologists who in 2012, with what fossils existing, had the painstaking task of assembling a jigsaw of death, all in hopes to figure out how this fucking thing worked. They figured it out, and we're going to watch these mouths at work. It's really awful. Then after the break, we are leaving microfossils for something equally overwhelming, but on the opposite end of the scale. Back in August, a researcher at the Institute of Space Science in Romania captured a first in a photo. On one side of the sun, a giant solar tornado raged, and on the other, at the same goddamn time, a massive plasma eruption exploded into space. If this sounds intense to you, you are right, it was quite a day, but good news. When I explain what a solar tornado actually is, what a plasma eruption is, and tell you the size of these two recent events, you will curl up into a fetal position. The Sun is currently in the most active phase of her 11-year solar cycle, a live, laugh, love, rosé all day period known as the solar maximum. And this photo says it all. We will meet the researcher who snapped this historic moment. We will learn how they did it, and with what devices, and who they were with to make sure we didn't miss it. How kind of them. In the meantime, hi, I'm Jill Chacha, and if this is your first time listening, welcome to the flock, my booming business goose. To begin, I'm going to need you to slap on your finest corset and layers of petticoats because I'm about to dial the time machine way the fuck back to the early 1830s. In the air floats the lush notes of operas and piano solos of the Romantic era. Music by those of Chopin, Donizetti, Bellini, delicious. We've landed in the Baltic region of our world, which means if you imagine Poland and move your finger up into a backward letter C, you'll find what is today Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. In the creamy middle is the Gulf of Riga, fed by the aptly named Baltic Sea. Along its shores, in a desperate search for fish fossils, is Heinz Christian Pander, who you'd think loved all things big. If you drop whatever fossil you're holding right now and pick up your phone to tap on today's post, you'll see his portrait. Just look at those massive mutton chops. You could drown in that bow tie. It's just as big. But, as it turns out, old Hans here is all about the small things. His first love was the study of chick embryos, and his eye was so damn sharp he was the first to discover germ layers, aka the 3 distinct regions of an embryo that give rise to specific organ systems. When not fingering these, in his downtime, he's face first in the dirt looking for bones of the Silurian period, nailed it, which is 443 to 419 million years ago. On this particular day, Heinzie here, once again, made history. After dissolving limestone and sifting through the bits, some bits were curious enough they warranted a look under a microscope. Heinzie found what he described as simple, extraordinarily tiny teeth, but teeth that in no way resembled anything familiar. If you swipe past those mutton chops of his, you'll see what I mean. Each is just as unique as a snowflake. And honestly, in terms of their shape, they look like parts of a snowflake broken off, jagged and angular. To whom they belonged was anyone's guess. And the best guess at the time, being that they were found along the shore where many a fish fossil had been gathered, well, maybe they belonged to a fish. And that was that. Year after year, decade after decade, along with Heinzie, other paleobiologists found them too, now aware that these things may be hidden, embedded in rock, and nearly invisible to the eye. From the shores of the UK to South Africa, piles of minute teeth were collected, and nothing more, which led researchers to believe that whoever this possible fish was once everywhere, but soft-bodied, and now nowhere. The rest of it was long gone. For 150 years, I'll say that again, for 150 years, with nothing but dentures as clues, let's just say these things were a mystery no one really spoke about. Because, hell, what was there to talk about anyway? That was until 1983. When the first fossil of an entire quirky-looking animal was scooped out of Carboniferous sediment in Scotland. If you drop whatever sediment you're holding right now and pick up your phone, you can see this fossil right the fuck now. 1, it looks like a tube with nothing but teeth at one end. 2, it's only 2 millimeters in length. 3, it dates back to 350 million years ago. And 4, them funky-looking teeth are the spitting image of all the other damn teeth that have been squirreled away, belonging to this unknown thing. Well, between the dating and the forensic evidence of this one sample, it is now known. My friends, may I introduce you to the conodont, whose current classification belongs to an extinct group of craniites, which includes jawless fish and jawed vertebrates. And if that sounds kind of vague, you're right. According to Britannica, the relationship of this little animal to known worm-like animal groups is still debatable. And no compatible creature is known to exist today. But back in their day, there were a shit ton of them. Analysts found more than 1,500 species of conodonts belonging to more than 50 families, all of which were killing machines. Quote, with a fossil history of some 300 million years, twice as long as that of dinosaurs, conodont animals appear to have been one of the highly successful groups that lived in the ancient oceans. They lived in a wide range of habitats, from shallow intertidal regions to the deep sea, and from warm tropical zones to cold high latitudes. These small worm-like creatures probably had quite varied life modes, bottom-dwelling to near-bottom, to open ocean dwelling, and even often widespread, judging from the distribution patterns of their fossils. End quote from Australian.museum. So, what the fuck could possibly stop something with a 300 million year winning streak? If you guessed only an extinction event that wiped out nearly everything else, you're not alone. With the last conodont fossils coming in from 200 million years ago, all signs point to the Triassic-Jurassic mass extinction event, which totally blew if you were alive at that time. Long, horrific story short, the main trigger was the formation of the Central Atlantic Magmatic Province, or CAMP if you're feisty. As the supercontinent Pangaea began to break apart, enormous amounts of magma erupted, and gargantuan amounts of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases were released into the atmosphere. We're talking climate chaos, ocean warming, acidification, and anoxia, aka a lack of oxygen. All of this was coupled with choking phytoplankton blooms consuming whatever oxygen there was, as they multiplied and broke down the seemingly endless parade of dead organic stuff. Shit sucked for 80% of land and marine species. They perished. But if you haven't listened to episode 137, when it rained for 2 million years on Earth and extinct rhino-sized turtle found in Spain, then you know who lucked out. Anyway, it wasn't conodonts. The era of these tiny champions had ended, but our understanding of them had finally begun. Like any good, curious, soft-bodied, naked and hairless creature, the first thing we wanted to know was how their terrifying mouths worked. How did all these pieces come together? Well, with the technology boom of the 2010s, boy howdy, it wasn't just iPhones that crawled out of the digital swamp. 3D imaging with magnificent scanning capabilities came out of there too, and you know what? When a tooth comes to a point 1/20th the width of a human hair, something like that comes in handy. But to truly understand the scale we're working with here, from the mountains of oddly shaped microfossils to their practically non-existent size, let's hear from the appropriately named Polly Sturgeon, Outreach Coordinator at the Indiana Geological and Water Survey, and let's take a peek at their conodont collection. We're going to learn some new terms, learn what their teeth were made of, and best of all, you won't fucking believe this, I just found out there's a National Fossil Day, and it's celebrated in October. Yeah, the best month just got better and spookier with a day dedicated to bones, y'all. This year, it was on the 15th, so happy belated Fossil Day to you. In 2021, it was on the 13th, the day this video was uploaded to shitFacebook. I'll have screenshots of the magnitude of their collection, but if you want to see it in real time, search Quick Look at the IGWS Conodont Collection, and it should pop up. So here we go.
Happy National Fossil Day, everyone. My name is Polly Sturgeon, and I'm the Outreach Coordinator for the Indiana Geological and Water Survey. In celebration of all things fossils, I'm going to show you around the survey's largest single collection, the Carl Rexroad Conodont Collection. Come take a look. Now, within these metal cabinets in this roughly 10-foot by 12-foot room is the largest collection that the survey takes care of. And you might think, in such a small room, how can we have such a large collection? But that's because conodonts are microfossils. So on these slides, in these cabinets, are millions and millions of specimens of conodont elements. Conodonts are eel-like animals that existed on Earth between the late Cambrian and early Triassic period. They had mineralized feeding structures in their heads that functioned like teeth. And those structures looked like this. The structures are called elements. You can see they form in a variety of sizes and shapes. Looking at the scale bar here, you can get a sense of just how tiny these elements are, typically between 200 microns and 0.5 millimeter in length. So they have to be studied under a microscope. If we take a look at one of these slides, you You can see those tiny, tiny dots. Those are each of the elements, the mineralized feeding structures that I just showed you on that photograph. Little bitty dots. Those are each the elements. Now, all of these specimens were collected by Carl Rexroad, a paleontologist who worked here at the survey in the 1990s and early 2000s, and the collection was recently revived by Dr. Alyssa Bancroft, a biostratigrapher who recently worked here at the survey. All of these specimens are organized by location in which they were collected. And so this one in particular, you can see SDH stands for survey drill hole. So all of these specimens correspond to a core within our core library, in this case, survey drill hole 366. So you can compare the data within the core at our core library to the data contained within these to get a really full picture. Now, conodonts are a really important type of fossil, but not one that is super well known because they are very, very small. But in addition to containing so much biostratigraphic knowledge about Indiana's rocks that we have here, Paleozoic age rocks, they are kind of like tiny little time capsules because they recorded the interactions between the ocean and the atmosphere that existed in Indiana throughout the Paleozoic. I will share some more links about conodonts and the information that they contain in the comments, but I hope you enjoyed this sneak peek into the conodont collection. Happy Fossil Day.
Well, there you have it. And as you can see, and as you've heard, these beautiful fuckers are fantastically small and equally as important, as their age can be used in the identification and correlation of strata. And they reveal what was up with the environment at the time. That is swell. But we're here for the mouth parts, baby, which, if you swipe past those screenshots of Kick-Ass Polly and the video, you can see they are a jigsaw of clusterfuckery. Where do you even begin? What goes where? Normal puzzles make me anxious, let alone whatever the hell this is. Luckily for us, we don't have to lift a finger. Dr. Alastair Evans from Monash University, Philip Donahue, a paleobiologist at the University of Bristol, UK, additional paleobiologists from the University of Zurich, and nerds of the European Synchrotron Radiation Facility, back in 2011 did all the squinting and assembling for us. Thanks to new fossils. Yes, even more discovered in China, quote, the researchers noticed several conjoined tooth-like structures that occupied an unusual position in the mouth. Based on this discovery and the reevaluation of other unusually constructed conodont feeding apparatus, the scientists developed a 3D animated model that shows how conodonts fed. Most conodonts had to have two upper lips, across each of which there was a long fang-like structure. The conodonts also had a kind of tongue bearing a complex set of spiny or comb-like teeth. The tongue rested on pulley-like cartilage that could be moved backwards and forwards thanks to two opposing muscles. The conodonts used the tongue and the lips to grab food before two pairs of relatively robust, sometimes molar-like throat teeth ground and cut it up. End quote from the University of Zurich press release. God, my friends, if that sounds awful, it was. This mouth contained at least 13 pieces that, when completely opened and unfurled, looked like that of the predators on steroids. Have a look at our socials if you want. There's a 3D model. When a conodont was close enough to some poor son of a bitch, its tongue, which is really just a row of needles, would snap out of its mouth, kind of like Ridley Scott's Alien, to drag it inside. As the tongue forced prey towards the back of the mouth, it was met with razor-sharp structures in all directions, like a funnel of blades which tore it to pieces. That's a horrible end. But it gets worse. At the very back of the mouth was a pair of scissors that basically snipped everything into even smaller pieces before being swallowed. Now, this nightmare has variations depending on the species. For example, instead of prey moving from front to back in the mouth, if you were snared by a conodont called Wormiella excavata, you'd be processed from left to right instead. How fun. And as to why any of this knowledge is necessary, well, to despite how unpleasant it is, this does reveal how jaws developed in the course of evolution. Us animals, now, at this point, we have streamlined Ferraris in our faces. But please, keep it covered anyway. I don't want to see any of it. After the break, we're leaving microfossils for a completely different scale. We're going to look directly into the sun, and it's going to blow you away. Next. Stay tuned.
How do you top your love for your cat? With a cascade of decadent savory gravy over a mouth-watering mousse pâté. Fancy Feast gems. 2 gourmet pâtés in one convenient pack. Simply peel and plate to reveal a pyramid shape that makes eating delightful and pamper her with an experience as extraordinary as she is. Turn the everyday into the extraordinary with Fancy Feast gems.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
And we're back. We are so back. And my friends, I'm going to have to ask you to take a deep breath and to sit the fuck down, because I need to explain 2 types of explosions that sometimes occur on our sun's surface. And the magnitude of these things will leave you feeling infinitesimal, like the size of a conodont. When I say tornado, what comes to mind? The central United States, a region known as Tornado Alley, winds that could exceed 250 and even 300 miles per hour, a speed whose sound has been described as a freight train inches from your face. The horrendous, yet beautiful towering funnel that could span 500 feet to over 2 miles across if the conditions are just right. Well, I know for sure that whatever pops up, it ain't the sun. But that might change, as I have great news. Solar tornadoes are a thing, and they were first discovered just recently in the early 20th century. Now, if you're picturing a funnel on the sun's surface, what's called the photosphere, you are exactly right. Solar tornadoes, or tornado prominences, if you want to get formal, are so called because of their eerie similar shape and resemblance to tornadoes on Earth. When viewed in 2-dimensional photographs, we will get more into this. In the meantime, that their shape is all terrestrial and solar tornadoes have in common. They're not composed of air, they don't move across the surface, and in terms of size, they make our tornadoes look like a sneeze. The funnel, if you will, is made of ionized or electrically charged hydrogen and helium atoms, aka plasma, which is expelled from the sun, shoots through the chromosphere, its lower atmosphere, and into the corona, the outer atmosphere. We've all been there. As to what sculpts this loose plasma into its oh-so-familiar shape, well, that happens to be the sun itself. Her internal processes create powerful magnetic fields which acts as a scaffolding, and that scaffolding is held in place by her gravitational pull. And, as reported by est-east.eu, despite how tornadoes appear in images, the magnetic field lines are not vertical, but rather horizontal, and the plasma flows along them. The tornado-like shape on 2D images are due to projection effects and the angle we're looking at them. So it all may be a trick of the eye, but that doesn't make them any less terrifying. Solar tornadoes are typically around 15,000 to 62,000 miles high. And if you think that's a bit much, put a pin in it. These averages will be dog shit in about a minute. Let's move on to explosion type number 2. And these also have a very familiar shape. Please, everyone, imagine something of a mushroom cloud, but on the sun. Yeah, that identifiable cap is simply called an eruptive prominence. They're composed of the same stuff, and their formation is just the same as well. On occasion, plasma breaks through the chromosphere and corona, the material becomes ensnared in magnetic field lines, and in this instance is pulled back inward towards the sun, producing an arc. Fun fact, small blobs of plasma can often be seen breaking away from the arc and falling to the sun's surface. This is known as coronal rain, and it occurs when plasma cools and condenses, causing it to fall to the surface at extreme speeds. And if you find yourself unable to stop singing Coronal Rain to the same tune as Purple Rain later today, you won't be alone. I've been doing it for days. Our weather events. Our weather events here on Earth come and go within a matter of hours, but these types of eruptions form over an entire day and may persist in the corona for several months, looping hundreds of thousands of miles into space. Needless to say, this puts on quite a show for space nerds around the world who have days to study these phenomena and record them. Space nerds, like the equally monumentally named Maximilian Toredescu, a researcher at the Institute of Space Science in Romania. As reported by the one and only spaceweather.com, bright-eyed Maximilian was one of hundreds of astronomers monitoring what looked to be the early formation of a tornado on the sun's surface, emerging on Sunday, August 17th. And side note, if you have the time, hell, if you don't have the time, please make the time. Make your way over to spaceweather.com right the fuck now, for the love of God. Not only because it provides information about solar flares, geomagnetic storms, asteroids, and aurora, blah, 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 but mostly because it was founded in 1999, and aesthetically, it has not changed. It has not changed since. It is a time capsule that perfectly captures what the internets looked like in 1999. God bless. Okay, anyway, back to bright-eyed Maximilian, who didn't blink for 24 hours, as lo and behold, the seeds of what resembled a funnel had bloomed into a full-on prominence by Monday, August 18th. With access to the Global Oscillation Network Group, or GONG for short if you're feisty, Max had the opportunity of a lifetime. As reported by Patrick Pester of Live Science, GONG has not one, not two, but 6 identical solar telescopes that monitor the sun in almost real time from different countries around the world, allowing amateurs and professionals alike to stay updated and hyper-fixated on solar activity from multiple angles. Best of all, you can take photos when the opportunity arises. Well, I would call this an opportunity. And so did fellow Institute of Space Science researcher Eliza Teodorescu, Max's wife, who, I swear to God, quote, helped him align a telescope's field of view with the tornado so he could capture images of the event, end quote, from Live Science. Y'all, thanks to Eliza, Max captured a photo for the ages. And you need to see it right the fuck now. Drop whatever telescope you're holding right now and pick up your phone, swipe past all those teeth, and 1, you'll see a handy-dandy cross-section of our sun, and 2, you'll see what Max and Eliza saw. Yeah, in the upper right-hand corner is a goddamn colossal tornado, and in the lower right-hand corner is an eruptive prominence that makes me want to shit my pants just the same. My clean business goose, they captured 2 events simultaneously, and these events broke records. That single tornado clocked in at 80,000 miles high. I will say that again, 80,000 miles. And to grasp this length, that's about 1/10 of the sun itself. And even worse, the Earth is just under 8,000 miles across, so this tornado is basically 10 Earths stacked one atop the other. That is something. But I know, I have to slow down. It would actually be covered in the eruptive prominence's shadow if they were close enough. Teodorescu did some clickety-clack calculations, and it's estimated that this photobombing eruptive prominence was around 124,000 miles wide. That's 200,000 kilometers wide. Not only did this prominence rain on the tornado's parade, but it beat the record of another eruptive prominence which took place back this past July. Dubbed the Beast by astrophotographers on July 12th, it appeared over the northwestern limb of the sun, and its sheer size made jaws drop. It spanned 100,000 miles across, and at that peak, it raged for 3 hours. Barely a month later, though, the sun told these astrophotographers to hold her rosé as she let an even larger one loose at 124,000 miles wide. Jesus. This one has no name, and I can understand why. Like I said during the intro to the show, the sun is currently in her most active phase of the 11-year solar cycle, so more is yet to come. Let's save the names for the real show that's coming. Happy Halloween, everyone. 124,000 miles across. God, and thank you for listening to this horror show. For rating, subscribing, telling your friends about the sharpest teeth to ever exist. Just like pause the movie you're watching while you're like, because it's Halloween, so I assume you're watching a horror movie. So just stop at like the most interesting part and tell them about conodonts. Oh God, and a spooky as fuck thanks to the folks over at Airwave Media, the podcast network to which WTI belongs. If you love this show, and you do, you love the other podcasts in this family. And please, stay interesting.